Alright, so I have not filmed a video in a little while actually, because honestly I've been treating life a bit like you just kind of wake up and see what happens, and I've been going out a lot, just doing all the things we couldn't do in lockdown really. But I think there's only so long you can do that before you start to get a bit bored. I've had good days and bad days, like I'm sure everybody has been having. And yeah, I thought I would film a video today and put my makeup on while I film a video. But as you may have seen by the title, I thought today I would have a little chat about benefits, the benefit system. I'm not sure how the benefit system works in other places. I'm only going to be talking about the UK and Scotland specifically. I don't know how different it is to England. I think it's maybe the same. I'm not too sure. I just thought this was a really relevant subject because a lot of people are going to be on benefits for the first time in their lives at the moment, or you might be somebody that is thinking about applying for benefits. My TV just turned on by itself. You might be somebody that's thinking about applying for benefits, or, you know, I don't know. These kind of subjects of, you know, benefits, or, you know, anything that is, I don't know. I feel like these subjects are always a bit difficult to talk about, and there always is so much to a topic like this that there's no possible way that you could really go into everything. But obviously there's been a lot of talk about benefits from loads of different people at the moment because of the refugee crisis, which is not a new crisis. It's just funny how these things kind of come up and then they're forgotten about, it feels like. And I know there's lots of people in the world that do a lot of things to try and help refugees and try and get them into safety and to help them start their lives and help change their lives. But I just think it's, yeah, that's one of the things that's just difficult. I'm sure you guys can relate to that, of just feeling like I find the topic of benefits difficult when it comes to refugees, because I'm like, why do we forget so quickly about this issue? And I think maybe it's just because we can't go on constantly knowing how unjust things are sometimes, but it's difficult. But it kind of, you know, I guess I raised the topic of refugees because there's been I've seen a lot of chat just like on Facebook and random stupid awful news outlets and in the media about you know, refugees escaping their countries and trying to get over here so they can get on benefits. And it's like, benefits aren't actually, you know, I have had my first time experience of universal credit and benefits, and nobody would cross a very dangerous ocean and take that journey with their families to be on a amount of money that you just cannot live on here. I mean, the refugee crisis and benefits is two different topics, but I mean everything kind of comes together in one topic when you boil it down. And I don't know if I'm just going off on a bit of a tangent here, but I just think it's really relevant to mention what's happening there. I don't know your guys' opinion or if you've been following what's been happening or anything like that, but refugees are people that are fleeing war, are fleeing famine, are fleeing situations where there is no medical help, where their children can't go to school, where they can't get work, where they can't get food, they can't get water. Really, really basic human rights are being completely violated in these places, and people are literally begging and fleeing to save their own lives and to save their families' lives, and they're coming here. And we only take 44,000 refugees into the country, and that is a very, very small amount of people considering how rich our country is and how many resources we have. I don't know, I think I'm just feeling the injustice of life today a little bit. And I feel like it's just, I don't know, I obviously use this platform to talk about mental health and all that kind of stuff, but I think everything is relevant, especially when it comes to mental health, because everybody is experiencing mental health and is experiencing different things at the moment. Just because somebody's life, like, I don't imagine myself to ever be a refugee, but we're all the same, we're all the exact same, and we never know what's going to happen in life. And just think, why the fuck aren't we being kinder to each other? If there's anything you can do, if you're in a position that you can donate to the refugee crisis that's happening right now, then please do. Or if you're somebody that just doesn't know much about it, then please educate yourself in what's going on. It is an absolute, it's just a horrific crisis that's happening right now, one that none of us can really imagine. I don't think. I certainly cannot imagine it. And nobody would come into this country to try and get benefits because you have no idea how hard it is to actually get on benefits and be able to live off of the money that they expect you to live off. And also, that's just from somebody that's lived in Scotland her whole life. I have no idea how much harder they make it for refugees, but I imagine they certainly don't make it easy for you to be able to be on benefits in the first place if you're not from the UK. So, we have a lot to do. We have a lot to do. So that's kind of what I've been thinking about a lot, and that is obviously somebody else's experience of benefits, if they're even, able and lucky enough to be able to get into the country and get on benefits, which is so unlikely in itself. But felt that was important to note while we're talking about benefits today. But obviously I don't know firsthand anything about that experience, but I do know my own experience of getting on benefits and currently living on benefits, and how it is pretty much impossible to be able to live on benefits and the benefits they expect you to live on. And the actual journey to getting benefits is patronising, it is humiliating, and in my personal experience I was met with a lot of criticism and basically people believing that I didn't actually have a mental illness, and people judging on a scale of 1 to 10 how disabled I was and whether I should be allowed to get help from the government. And it's just been a real horrible experience. I'm obviously open about my mental health. I have obviously this YouTube channel and I talk about it on Instagram, and I talk about it a lot in my real life. Different chronic illnesses and mental illnesses, which I am starting to think are kind of the same thing. Honestly, chronic illness, invisible illness, mental illness, they all kind of come under the same umbrella for me. And I'm falling less and less into a specific category of that and just believing more in the umbrella, if that makes any sense. So, but whatever, basically just an invisible struggle. Oh my god, I maybe put too much bronzer on, that's okay, that's okay. I will briefly tell you, as brief as I can, my experience of going on benefits. I have been on housing benefits for probably a couple of years, and it was always really good because it was when I was working in other things, so I was maybe doing, little bits and pieces here and there. I was working in a bar for a bit and I was doing some self-employed stuff for a bit. But obviously, like many people, when the pandemic happened, like many other people that are kind of self-employed, all of my jobs slowly left. I was doing social media for small businesses, and obviously small businesses are the first places that are going to have to cut back on certain things, and a social media manager and marketing and stuff, that's probably one of the first things to go, because it's not really a complete essential for their business. It's something that helps their business, but I guess it's also something that they can learn themselves within the business. So it's just one of those things that's going to go. And so that was obviously very difficult for me, because if you don't know, I have agoraphobia and panic disorder, and so building up I knew that I couldn't work in a normal way, so I can't really just do jobs in a normal way. Basically, that'll take another whole video to explain that, but that's the way it is at the moment, and it has been for quite a while. And so I was really proud of myself for building up my own kind of portfolio and going out of my way to try and become self-employed, and it took a very long time. And actually YouTube helped a lot with that, because it was kind of like a portfolio for me of what I can do. And I was really proud of myself for building that up. But obviously, like I said, a lot of other people are in the same boat as me, that especially self-employed people, you know, your job just kind of, when a pandemic hits, your job just goes, and that's just the way it is. After maybe a month or two into lockdown, I realised I'm going to have to get additional financial help because I cannot pay for this flat anymore if I want to also have food and heat my home. And so I went into the lengthy process of going on universal credit. So basically what happened was I went online, made a universal credit account, I asked for universal credit. You put in all of your details, every single detail you can imagine, and they phone you and just kind of confirm things, I think. I can't remember, this was like a month or two ago. And then they send you, you know, you don't actually get information of how much you're going to get. They're just like, okay, in 6 weeks money will appear in your account. I'm lucky enough to be able to ask for financial help from my family. When I'm in that situation, I always knew that I could rely on my parents if I, you know, didn't have an income or any money, and I know that's a very privileged position, and most people can't do that and just call up their dad and be like, can I have some money to pay for my rent? I felt a bit spoilt being able to do that and being able to be in that position, but I was very, very lucky, very grateful. But, you know, that's a massive issue with the benefit system, is that you have to wait 6 weeks before you can get paid. And if you've lost your job and you're not going to get any income, or you're fired, or something happens in your family, or you have an illness, or a million different things happen and you lose your job, you have to wait 6 weeks before you can get paid. That means you might become behind on your rent. It means you might not be able to afford food. So their alternative and their solution to that is that they can give you £300 there and then. £300 isn't that much money if you're having to pay for rent, or if you're having to, you know, you'll still go behind on your rent, because £300 isn't a lot of money when you're thinking about everything that you need to pay for. And also that £300 you have to pay back. So it's like an advancement, but you have to pay that money back. So you'll either get less universal credit for the rest of the time that you're on universal credit, or you have to find a way to pay the £300 back. So it's not an ideal situation, and so I would rather ask for help from family than get that, because why would you want to choose that? And obviously a lot of people don't have that choice, and so they're just going to have to say to landlords, I'm going to be late on rent, or they're going to have to, you know, imagine that was Christmas time, imagine that was somebody's birthday, you know, all these things. Life is expensive. Being alive is an expensive thing, and this is when, you know, mental health problems come into it, because even if you're somebody that's never experienced mental health problems, that is it's not a system that's friendly to the mind, or anybody, that, you know, they kind of tarnish everybody with the same brush. And that's kind of my experience of how I felt when I phoned the benefits people, because when they phoned me to kind of check everything, the woman said, oh, it says here that you're agoraphobic and that you can't really work in the same way. I was like, oh yeah, I have agoraphobia. And usually, obviously, I have this channel I talk about all the time in my real life and online and stuff, but I felt really like, oh, shit, this is not going to go well. And she said, oh, it doesn't sound like you have agoraphobia. I was like, I knew that was going to happen. I knew that I was going to get questioned or have a ridiculous comment like, you don't sound like you have agoraphobia. Because what the hell does a person with agoraphobia sound like? I'm a very happy person. I'm lucky that I've never experienced depression. I have anxiety. I've had anxiety for a very long time. That's what it is. But there's no way that a mental illness sounds. The same way that you would never say to somebody, oh, you don't sound blind. You don't sound deaf. You don't sound like you've got chronic fatigue. What does that sound like? I wasn't angry at the time. I was just really like taken aback, and I just said to her, oh, just forget it. Just forget that I said that. Just give me the normal universal credit that everyone gets. And she was like, oh, okay. And she put it through, and I was like, God's sake. But then the issue started when they started sending me job applications that I should apply for to get off universal credit. And they were things that were not in my range. So I have maybe a 1 mile radius from my home. Even that is maybe pushing it a bit, of where I can work. That is my boundary. That's just the way it is. I cannot go out of that comfort zone. I just can't. At the moment anyway, I just can't. I couldn't go to, you know, 1.5 miles away to be a carer or to work in catering. I just couldn't do it, and it's not because I'm lazy, it's not because I'm a scrouger, it's not because I'm a princess, it's not because I'm making this up and that I could just, you know, all of these misconceptions, it's none of that. It's because I've got a mental illness, and I have done for a very long time, and I'm trying my best to overcome that, but it doesn't happen overnight. And out of everybody in the whole world, I am the person that would most like that to change. And yeah, I'm trying my best, and yeah, I was just very disappointed. So they started sending me all these applications, and I was like, well, I'm going to have to just do something about this and address this, because I cannot do what they're wanting me to do. I ended up writing in my journal. You get like this journal thing online where you can talk to people in the benefit you know, centre or whatever. And I said, listen, I have agoraphobia. I explained my situation, and I cannot do the work that you're asking me to do. And so they replied and said, okay, well, we're going to need a note from your doctor. And I was like, oh god, here we go. If you have ever struggled with mental health or an invisible illness or anything of that nature, you may know or may have experienced that doctors don't always understand. They're not always the best. I've got many stories, but I've been lucky in finding a very good doctor at the moment, and I will say that. But she wasn't available, so I had to speak to a random doctor, and I said, oh, they've asked me for a note from you to say that I'm not well enough to work. And I was shitting myself, I'm not going to lie, because I know that sometimes doctors can be like, what? And that's exactly what happened. She was like, oh, I don't know. It says here you've got, you know, anxiety. I think that's the problem with the word anxiety, is people experience it in such different ways, and some people experienced, you know, some people are high functioning people with anxiety who can work, who can do lots of things, but maybe they need certain boundaries. And some people have generalised anxiety, which I don't have either. And some people have phobias and OCD and panic disorder, which is what I have, which makes life difficult. I was like, alright, I actually don't have generalised anxiety disorder. I've told you guys this very many times. I have panic disorder. Anyway, I'm going off in a bit of a rant, but basically eventually she gave me a sick note that was going to last 2 months. So every 2 months I have to go back and have that same conversation, which is just not ideal, because in my regular life, if somebody doesn't understand my mental health after me trying to explain it, they're out here. I'm not interested. I always try to you know, explain, and I don't, you know, I'm not saying that like you just, if somebody doesn't get your mental health, you just like kick them out of your life, because sometimes people are trying to get it, or you know, they just need a little bit of help understanding it, which is totally okay, because if you've never experienced it, then you might need a bit more help to understand it. But you know, in doctors' situations, I just feel like, you know, you should get it, you should get the training on this. This is also a medical issue as well as a mental health issue. Anyway, managed to finally get it, and so they sent me through a like disability benefit package, which is basically loads of questions that they ask you, and they ask you how able you are. And the difficult thing with that is a lot of people with mental health problems, if they're just experiencing mental health problems by itself, they can kind of, you know, I can cook my own dinner, I can communicate with others, I can go to the shops and get my own food. So a lot of the questions they were asking, I was like, well, yeah, I don't need help crossing a road, and I can read and write, and I can answer the door safely, and I know boundaries, and you know, all these things that they're asking these questions for definitely more physical illnesses. So I am still awaiting the call about whether they are going to say I'm disabled enough or not. And I don't want this to sound like, I'm not trying to make this into a like pity story at all. I'm very lucky, I have a very good life, and you know, if this doesn't work out and they don't say I'm disabled enough, then that's fine, you know, I'll work something out. But the system is mental. It is absolutely mental that I am being judged on a scale of 1 to 10 how disabled I am, when I know how disabled I am, and I do not, the word disabled is something that does not come into my vocabulary for the way I describe myself. I'm sure many disabled people are the same, whether you're physically disabled or mentally disabled or whatever it is. I don't define myself as disabled. I am in certain areas I find it harder to be able, and that comes into every aspect of my life, but I wouldn't describe myself as disabled. And the fact that somebody else that I do not know at all is judging how disabled I am, I just find that unbelievably horrible, especially when I'm not actually going to be able to speak to this person. They're going to see what I have written and decide whether I'm entitled to have a better life with a bit of extra money to help me get by in life. I just feel like I can't really explain exactly how I feel, because I think obviously when you're doing things like YouTube, you're not bouncing off somebody else, so I don't know, to be honest, how this is coming across, but I just hope it's coming across that the system is just really unfair. And there's no way, also on a separate note, if you're somebody that's applying for universal credit, it's also, even without disability benefit, which I haven't got yet, I don't know if I will get, it's really not something that I can live on, and I'm still having to get support from my dad for financial help, which is not ideal obviously, but it is just the way it is right now because I cannot live on universal credit. My universal credit covers my rent and most of my bills. So if I was just relying on universal credit, I would genuinely not be able to eat at all. I wouldn't have any money for food. The thing is, we are never ever ever ever, anybody is never that far away from needing to go on benefits. There's very few people in this world that, are, immune from that. And the only people that are immune from that are usually, big CEOs, big corporate people. Even then, those people are probably, those people are still able to come into a medical problem that means they can't work, or a mental health problem. Mental health illnesses are on the rise, as are loads of different stress-related illnesses. We need to have people at the other end of these phones in the benefits system that are trained in being able to talk to people, because people that are going on benefits, I can guarantee you 99% of the time are very much not wanting to be having to go on benefits, but they have no other choice, and they are in a situation that they didn't expect to be in and they don't want to be in, but it's just the situation they're in. And so a lot of people that are phoning are going to be probably upset, are probably going to feel vulnerable, are going to feel worried, are probably experiencing some form of feeling, mental health stuff. And I also wanted to say in this video, we have these shows like, I don't know, Benefit Street, or, The Estate, or shows that are showing, people in a scrounger light, when people that, you could watch on TV and be like, they could work, or they could, why aren't they doing this, or, but actually what they're not showing is that behind the closed doors of these people's lives and the horrible things they've gone through, or their mental illnesses or physical illnesses, or the reasons that they can't work. They are just showing these people raking in the money and sitting about doing nothing, and nobody is actually doing that. Even the people that they are filming, those people are people that also have had lives and have lives that include very difficult stuff, which means that they are more unlikely to be able to work if you I just don't understand why people can't just be a bit more kind. And this is a massive, massive, massive issue that is happening, and the country is in a situation where we are in the worst recession in the past 11 years or whatever it is, and more and more people are going to need to go on benefits, and the more and more people are going to understand what it's like being somebody that has to be on benefits, and the fact that you really just cannot live on what they're expecting us to live on. I think I could probably go on about this for days and days and days, but I've said, I think, most of what I was trying to say. Of, you're definitely not alone if you've had to go on benefits recently, and you're definitely not alone if you don't see a way out of being on benefits. And it's a hard situation, especially with the pandemic and lockdown and people not always being kind, especially the people that we need to be kind, like doctors and people in government. We don't always get the support that we really, really should be getting. If you have any stories that you'd be comfortable sharing, I would really love to know your experience of being on benefits or thinking about going on benefits, or your opinions of this. I would really, really like to know. So if you'd like to and you feel comfortable sharing in the comments, I would really like that. And we can maybe all you know, learn about what each other have gone through in this situation. But yeah, I think I really do believe in human kindness, and the more we're there for each other, supporting each other, being kind to each other and not judging each other, the better this world's going to be. So let's just keep doing that, and that's one of the things that we can always do. So yeah, thank you very much for watching this video, and I will see you soon.